Right now, let's deal with the PC nomination problems. Jim Prentice, as you know, promised a new era of transparency and openness in Alberta government. But the PC party's nomination contests, rushed as they are, seem to have been anything but transparent. There's been serious accusations of bribery, intimidation, even interference from senior cabinet ministers and the Premier's office itself. Many, including, I should say at least one party member, have compared the PCs to the television series House of Cards. Now, the person who made that comparison was speaking with Dave Cournoyer, who runs the DaveBerta.ca political blog. He spoke with him on the condition of anonymity, and in fact, according to Dave, he's been getting lots of calls from very disaffected PC members who are very much concerned about how these nomination contests have been progressing. Extremely rushed, getting ready for an expected spring election, and really lacking the kind of grassroots support one would expect from a government claiming to be so transparent and open. Let's invite Dave Cournoyer to join us to talk more about the problems. Dave, thanks for making the time tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, there's been lots of concern about the way these nomination contests have been working on the PC side, so much so that you've actually been receiving a lot of calls from disaffected members. Can you speak to that a little bit about what they're telling you?
Yeah, over the past few weeks, I've been receiving quite a number of phone calls and emails from PC party members and activists and PC loyalists who have been involved with the party for a long time, who are frustrated about some of the irregularities or conduct of party officials or MLAs in some of the recent candidate nomination contests across the province.
Yeah, you start your piece by quoting one Conservative Party member who spoke on the condition of anonymity, saying, the entire process has gone straight to hell. How is that any different from how this might be a bit cynical question, how is it any different from how the nomination contests usually work?
The difference is between this election, or these nomination races and the nominations in previous elections, seems to be the sheer number of controversies that are being generated. This past week, last week, we had Associate Minister Naresh Bhardwaj actually resigned from cabinet over allegations of bribery in the nomination race that saw him acclaimed in Edmonton-Ellerslie. That's a pretty serious, when you have cabinet ministers resigning their positions. That's some pretty serious allegations. And I know NDP MLA Brian Mason made it a focus in the legislature this week in question period, asking, should the RCMP get involved? Should there be an outside investigation if we're talking about, these type of serious allegations? $10,000 is a lot of money, and that's a pretty serious allegation.
Yeah. Can you outline some of the other concerns of the way that these nomination contests have been working? One of the primary ones is that it's the Premier's office that's really selecting these candidates, much to the chagrin of many of the on-the-ground grassroots PC people in those ridings. Is that the big concern that you're hearing, that it's the Premier's office that's really calling the shots here rather than the PC membership?
Well, the Premier's office or, senior cabinet ministers, that's definitely been a serious piece of frustration that I've been hearing from PC party members is how senior cabinet ministers are playing an active role in some nomination races, especially in nomination races where you have former Wild Rose MLAs who crossed the floor back in December, so who weren't even PC party members until 3 or 4 months ago. You have senior cabinet ministers coming into ridings and campaigning for them and endorsing them. And that's very frustrating for some PC party members who, throughout the past few years when the Wild Rose Party was doing really well in some of these rural ridings, you have these members who were quite loyal and stayed loyal to the party. And they're feeling a little burnt, I'd say, about these senior PC cabinet ministers now coming in and campaigning with people who, 3 or 4 months ago were their political enemies, were their political opponents. So that seems to be one of the big bone of contentions. If you follow cabinet ministers on social media, I know Jonathan Dennis and Robin Campbell and Manmeet Bhullar have posted photos with themselves with candidates across the province.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there was a real question after the floor crossings occurred. Just how much of an easy ride would these former Wild Rose members, now PC members, have when going for these nomination contests? And it seems I guess one can only speculate, but it seems that the promises that were made in order to, woo them over to the PC side are being followed up, and that is to give them a really easy and cushy ride into those nominations in those various ridings.
That was one of the pieces that Premier Prentice brought to the PC caucus when the Wildrose MLAs were going to cross, and it's one of the points that the PC caucus rejected. But now you see, senior cabinet ministers, people who are closely connected with Prentice, who are going out and trying to make it as easy as possible for some of these former Wildrose MLAs to win. So to the chagrin of local party members.
Yeah, indeed. There's something else that's going on here that I found really interesting, that it seems that there is this, at least in a couple of races, where they are accusing one member or one person that's running for the nomination of misdeeds of some kind. If, for example, there was Don Martin in Edmonton Decor, Mr. Martin posted in his account of the situation saying that there was some sort of mystery affidavit that came out that accused him basically of misconduct. That happened again in Edmonton Meadowlark, where again there were these affidavits that were alleging misconduct on one candidate's part, and then they were being disqualified. I mean, there's so much to these allegations, very difficult to get to the bottom of it, but we seem to be seeing a pattern here.
And for Jim Prentice, I think, who made it one of his, probably his number one campaign point, was to restore the trust of Albertans into the PC party after it was damaged over the past few years. This definitely serves to undermine, that goal.
He doesn't really care, I don't think, and doesn't, I think, can do these sorts of tricks when it comes to putting in his candidates that he wants in individual races, and to hell with the optics, because he's going to win anyway.